Today we've got 20 Commander Carter Rakuscos, which is short for cards, that are under a buck of Rakusco, which is short for dollar bills, y'all. 20 cards under $1. It's like a 20 under 20 kind of thing. 20 under 20 is how we're selling this thing. Let's get into the list. And the purpose of this video is for 20 bucks, you could build yourself a nice little starter set of some cards that are going to be good for the foreseeable future, unless major changes happen to Commander. So yeah, the first card we're going to talk about is Reality Shift. It's an excellent card that is a great removal spell in blue. If you are in blue-white, you don't need it because you have so many white exile spells. But if you're playing like a blue-red or a mono-blue, Reality Shift is one of the top-tier cards that you can put in there as far as removal goes.
Yeah, you can't downplay the power of exile target creature on a 1 blue pip, 1 other instant speed. It's just a really solid card. Yeah, I would honestly argue, Jake, your point about white, any deck that's not blue-white. I mean, black is mostly destruction, green's going to be fight, so any Simic deck definitely wants this removal spell. And yeah, like you said, blue-red is going to have like deal damage, and if it dies this way, it gets exiled, but nothing's going to have the straight-up exile of the go away like Reality Shift is going to have. Another excellent blue card. You can actually get Reality Shift back with this. It's Torrential Gearhulk. This card was a demon in its own standard time and remains a very strong EDH card for casual fun tables. Just getting that instant speed back for just absolutely free. You don't even have to spend any mana to cast it, and this has flash, so you can do it at any time. You could flash it in to counter a card. You could flash it in to get some ridiculous high mana value instant speed cast for free. Just really strong.
Yeah, it's just one of those cards that, you know, it's a pretty casual card. It's kind of top heavy at 6 mana, but it's very good. A lot of the cards that have flash with big ETBs are very strong. So this is a card that if you're just looking to have like a big blue splashy creature, you could get this one for like 59 cents right now. It's remarkably different from when this card was taken over standard, like Joel was talking about. Torrential Gearhulk was as high as like $30 at one point. And so it's gone through a massive adjustment.
Yeah, still remains a very strong 6-cost creature, as does Demon Lord Belzenlock.
That's right, Demon Lord Belzenlock. 2 black, 4 other for a big old 6/6 flying trampler. It ETBs and you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land, put it in your hand. That card's mana value is 4 or greater. Repeat the process and it deals 1 damage to you for each card put into your hand this way. So it's just a big demon, red, a nice relevant creature type. It digs deep. This is another one of those cards that while it was scarce before it got reprinted, it was kind of like expensive, and now under $1. I think it might be 49 cents, 50-cent card.
Big flampling demon that can refill your hand, and it's always going to hit at least something. You're not going to hit lands with this because it's only looking for non-lands, like a big flampler that can refill your hand. How about one of the pieces of one of the most critical pieces of removal? This is up there with like Imprisoned in the Moon for most powerful commander removal that exists, because it just turns it into nothing and you can't do anything but sack it. It just becomes ridiculous.
You have to get rid of Darksteel Mutation, right? And it's about dealing with the enchantment. This is one of those cards that always sits at like $2 when it hasn't been reprinted. It's in a big dip right now. It's like 70 cents or like 60 cents. It's a card that gets reprinted in commander decks fairly often, but this just appears in the set. So if you're missing out on this card, if you don't have it, now is a great time to save on it.
I'll tell you what you're missing out on, and that's subscribing to our channel. Statistically, only 30% of you watching this video right now are subscribed to the channel, and you're missing out. You should be joining the 30% if you're chilling in the 70. So make sure you hit that sub button and come hang out with us on Wednesdays, because your chat, like Benjamin Wildman said, I like this in Oubliette, talking about the premium removal, like Darksteel Mutation in the format. Oubliette, Darksteel Mutation, Imprisoned in the Moon. It's just ridiculous to have a card go nowhere because nowhere doesn't really exist in Commander anymore, but nowhere can still be achieved. Look at Hellkite Charger though, Jake. This is harkening back to our early days. I would play this in some of the first Commander decks I ever built. It's a flying haster for 6 mana. And when you attack on the next turn after you've untapped, or if you have 7 more mana, you can pay 7 and have a little combat step switcheroo. Combat step 2 right. Electric Hellkite Boogaloo can be achieved for just 7 mana.
That's right. This card does go infinite as well. So if you're able to create infinite mana and do that over and over and over again, that is a way to win the game with this card. I'm looking at the prices of it, and before this reprint, the card was sitting at like $4, and now you can get this card for 50 cents.
Yeah.
So right now, it's just kind of like whenever a big set comes out like this, if you have a little bit of money set aside, you can pick up a bunch of cards that you may not have a deck ready for them right now, but if you want them in the future, if you want to put them in a deck, you really have to take advantage of the window like this, where we do have a premium set like Commander Masters, where we can pick up a bunch of these cards. And, you know, it's interesting because typically we would tell you to wait longer, but they're already going through massive adjustments and are already extremely cheap. So if you are waiting on it, then, I mean, you can, but the risk is already very low. We
try to suggest only cards on the channel that are low risk of the current price that we would recommend them at. And so while we know that this set has more time to drop for some of the bigger cards, that's why we started with these 50-cent sub-dollar cards, so that number one, you could spend one $20 bill and pick up all 20 of them, and two, the risk is low. Dropping from 50 cents to 30 cents isn't going to hurt anybody's feelings. But Jake, how about 6 mana?
59-cent Inferno Titan, man.
Yeah, I mean, 6 mana, 6/6, throwing around lightning bolts when it enters or attacks. Chad, I got to get your take on this one because there's a lot of hot takes, Inferno Titan, Nooch, about the Titans. Are they good anymore? One's banned.
It's pretty casual, dude.
Yeah,
it's a pretty casual card.
Yeah.
It's a pretty basic card, but it's like, it's chill. It's like if you need a big red beater, it's a great card. It's just like, it used to be a mythic, used to be kind of expensive. I know that it's already like before this reprint, the card was already just like, you know, $1 card, and you had the secret layer version that was the most expensive, and that was like a $5 version of the card.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a cheap casual card. Once you get into a sweatier format, you're probably going to cut this and put in something else, but it's a good starting spot.
Yeah, it really is. Plus, it's got the Kev Walker art. Just such a cool piece there. That giant hand leaning on the top of a volcano climbing out. And I got to say, I like the flamethrower ability, which is that 1 red gets +1/+0, and you can just dump mana into that. I prefer that to like Death Touch on Grave Titan. Why does the 6/6 need Death Touch? Who knows? But it's got it.
Yeah,
even though it's probably going to kill what it fights anyway. But Inferno Titan can just be like, I get through, I hit hard.
Yeah, and I love that you get the 3 damage on the attack, which is pretty sweet as well. You get to clean things up before you get in there.
Yeah.
Next up, Verdant Confluence, 2 green, 4 other for a sorcery with some nice modes on it. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. It's just a big, splashy, modal green spell that's going to be generically good in most green decks. You're going to be able to either bolster a creature in a big way, get a bunch of stuff back from your graveyard, or you can go just be like, you know what, I'm going to use this turn to just tutor up 3 basic lands and be ahead on mana. You're in the right color for big splashy spell like this, so I like it at 49 cents.
I built a deck for Jake like 2 years ago that was a Cody deck. Jake loves the Confluence cards. Jake loves any card that says make a choice. Choose 3, choose 1, choose 2, choose 3, whatever. Jake loves these types of cards. Jake, we've got to get this Cody deck actually played and tested up, because all it did, Cody is a deck about running non-permanents. It's only about running spells. You can add mana to get more spells casted and go crazy. And with these Confluence cards, you'd have a whole deck of choices. I called the deck Jake's Got Choices. And it's just about Modal cards only in a Cody deck. But yeah, Verdant Confluence, it's a super fun card. Most of the cards on this list, they're under $1. It's an excellent starting place for Commander. It's excellent. These cards will just linger over until you tune a deck up to like that high power level. But until then, this is really fun casual cards. Be like, oh, I need a 99th card, need a 100th card for my green deck. Boom, Verdant Confluence, especially if you're in a counter deck. But the return in the library basic land search is going to be good. It's just going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, even for 6 mana in a deck that's, you know, medium power, just getting a couple things back and tutoring up a land can be a big impactful moment in a game.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
huge.
you could even get that card for like as low as 16 cents. I'm seeing it so cheap right now.
Here's a under $1 commander that we encourage you to give a shot if you haven't given this commander a shot before, and that's Taste of Karloff. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So what you're looking at is a card that anytime you have a Blood Artist on the field, when a creature dies, your opponents are losing a life, you gain life, you're going to get multiple triggers off of that. So a good first way to lean this deck, even though there's a couple of ways you can build Teysa, would be an Aristocrats build, especially because the second part says creature tokens you control have Vigi and lifelink. So Teysa's doing a little bit of everything for Aristocrats, a little bit of everything for creature tokens decks. It's a really good starting place for if you want to try an Orzhov budget commander.
Yeah, exactly. The profile version of this card, which came out of the same set, is like a 30-cent card.
Yeah.
The etched version right now is $1. So if you do end up really enjoying this archetype and it's something that you think you're going to return to, you've got some fun versions of cards to choose from. This card is so popular as a commander that it has been given a lot of different treatments. It has a Secret Lair version, it has Multiverse Legends versions, but if you're just looking for a base copy to test it out, here's one that you can get for about 30 cents.
Yep, we want to have a nice little starter pack for Commander here.
Yeah, next up we have Felwarstone. It's a 2-cost mana rock that it does what it does. Add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. So at the bare minimum, as long as your opponents are playing lands, this should float for a generic mana for you.
Yeah, I want to see some hands in chat. Who has run Felwarstone in a deck? We got 180 people watching right now. We should see 180 hands up.
Yeah, a lot of people get turned off by mana rocks that cost 3 and then don't have a big return. So a lot of people go for stuff like Felwarstone,
right?
Mind Stone, Arcane Signet, that kind of stuff that's going to be able to give you a return on a 2 mana investment. Cards like Signets and that kind of stuff people gravitate toward a lot. And so this is a card that's just extremely cheap right now, and it's just a commander staple.
Yep, it doesn't come into play tapped, which is kind of the last note about this card is it sticks to just, I'm a mana rock, I am 2 mana. Early game, you may be limited to 2 or 3 colors of choice. But late game, as long as all 5 colors are represented in the pod, you probably got a five color mana rock there. Jake, look at this art. I love that they swapped Cleansing Nova art to this one. They swapped this one like right after Strixhaven. What was the Kaldheim? Right after the Kaldheim precons, they swapped exclusively to this Marta Nail piece for Cleansing Nova. And it's just so gorgeous looking, bro. 5 mana sorcery, choose 1, destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. It's the 5 mana board wipe, but it's still playable in Commander. There's lots of options for 3 mana, 4 mana board wipes in Commander, but if you want one that's going to give you a choice between your creatures and your artifacts and enchantments, get this version. Honestly, I see this having the most play in a creature heavy deck where you want to mostly like just wipe all the enchantments and artifacts off the board. Maybe your opponents, maybe just your friends. Face. Yeah, exactly.
Go wide, go face. Yeah.
Yeah. You can also run it in a deck that's running mostly artifacts and enchantments and destroy all creatures this way and get around it. So yeah, really classic board wipe. It's included in a lot of precons, but that plus this printing of it has got this card for pennies.
Recently printed in a Secret Lair drop as well. So the price was already pretty low on this one, but yeah, it's just one of those cards where, man, what do I need in this deck? A board wipe. I've already got Wrath of God in here. but you know what? I want another one. Let's put Cleansing Nova in. Maybe in the future you switch it out for a Supreme Verdict. Maybe you end up really liking it and you just keep it in the deck. It's a good spell, and it's extremely cheap.
As we move to our next card, I want to remind everybody watching this, watching live and watching after the fact, if you want to shop for any of these cards, use our TCG player link. It's in the pinned comment of this video. If you're watching this after the fact, chat, I just dropped it live for you. Click on that link, go purchase these from, or if you're going to purchase these from TCG player, go through our link before you do it. We get a little kickback, doesn't cost you anything extra, helps us grow the channel. Jake, here's another sweet enchantment. I'll let the enchantment guy talk about the Elidar Cat enchantment.
Yeah, I don't think this card really needs a lot of an introduction. No. This is a card that came out of
Zendikar Rising.
That's right, Zendikar Rising, and it has been popular ever since. It is just these enchantments that have landfall on them where you get an effect whenever a land enters. Lands entering is something that we can all expect to do a lot in a game. This is a card that plays really well alongside decks that are going to tutor up extra lands in a turn. But it is a token generator, and it also is a card that is going to give our team pseudo vigilance as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to give us actual vigilance, but it's going to grow our team, and it's going to make it to where when they attack, they are not tapped. So it's a pretty sweet card, man. It does a lot for 4 mana. Once you play it, it just sits there. It either grows your board, makes your team wider, or makes your team taller. It's strong.
Yeah.
Card.
Little card analysis note here, commander deck building note. Look for cards like this that scale with the game. You ask yourself, do I want this card as soon as it can come down or earlier on turn 4? Or would I mind seeing this card? And you do. You absolutely do.
Yeah.
Because you can start every land as a 2/2. That's crazy. And then ask yourself, would I also, if I top deck this, if I've got a developed board and I just need that one little piece to push me over the edge, will this be good? The answer is also yes. Play this, drop a land, your whole board grows up by 1 and can attack without tapping. It scales beautifully. It can help you rebuild late as well. So just a classic, super cheap card right now, under $1. And remember, chat, and people watching after the fact, I've seen this comment. If you can get all these for under $20, you could get special versions, foil versions, etched versions, alternate versions of these for just a little bit more.
Right, maybe
exactly.
$30 or less.
We are focusing on base copies here because this is really trying to come from the area. We've had a lot of people talk to us about like starting a commander collection. What do I buy when I'm just starting out? What's cheap? What are the staples? What do I need? Commander Masters is going to provide us a really unique opportunity, and that is a really huge dig of
just a swath of just like boom.
Build a collection, all of what you need. It's all right here. A ton of it is right here, right? And so you can buy it cheap. You can buy the special versions for a little bit more. But Heliod, God of the Sun, another enchantment. Other creatures you control have vigilance. Yeah, 99 cents. This card is under $1. Not a creature. It's indestructible. It's not a creature unless your devotion is 5. Other creatures,
yeah, pretty good.
You're making vigilance across all your creatures, and you're making 2/1 clerics for just a 4 mana investment. Really good.
Yeah, if you have something that makes activated abilities cheaper, something like a training grounds, then you could do this for cheaper. But it's just one of these cards that's very strong. It used to be a more expensive card, but now it is sub $1, even as a mythic in this set, even printed at mythic. I would understand it being less than $1 if it was printed at rare, but even as a mythic, it is at $1.
Yep.
So if you don't have this card, if you've ever been interested in it, the risk is very low.
Risk is very low. Oh, another enchantment card for the enchantment guy.
Yeah, Sigil of the Empty Throne. You got the 2 white, 3 other enchantment. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. So it's, Joel loves this archetype. Enchantments matter, but this is just one that makes it to where all of your enchantments, you get residual effects from them.
Residual effects? You're calling a 4/4 flyer a residual effect?
Yeah.
Bro, you're gonna win the game if this just sticks for too long. You're gonna slam a bunch of enchantments, bro. It's just gonna get insane. Also, this fits in my all chairs deck. I don't know if anybody's aware of my all chairs deck, but it's a good chair, floating chair. Love a floating chair. good for your chairs deck. Also a positive toward purchasing that. All right, here's a less fun card, chat. You know, we had to go for some mean stuff. Not everybody just wants to have a sweet, fun time playing Commander when they're building their first collection. They're like, I know going in, I'm a control mage. Well, here's one as well. 2 blue, 1 other for a 5 loyalty walker. This is from War of the Spark originally, y'all, so it's got a passive effect. One of the first times we saw those passive effects on Planeswalkers, and now it's just so normal. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. That doesn't sound like the most backbreaking thing, but I promise the first time...
It is.
The first time you have Narcin on the battlefield and you play an effect like Wheel of Fortune that's going to make sure everybody's discarding their entire hand and drawing cards equal to... Or that wheel is draw back up to 7. This is going to say, no, they can't do that. So you're going to have everybody discard all of their hand, draw 1 card instead. You're going to get to draw 7, and then you're going to be the target at the table. Not even to mention...
enemy number 1.
Right.
100%.
This can also dig down and get non-creature, non-lands from the top 4 of your library and put them right into your hand, and you can do that 2 times if you don't even proliferate this. I mean, this is just one of the craziest uncommon walkers of all time, right?
It kind of sits on the battlefield like an enchantment. If you have a way to protect it, you can use the ability twice and it'll just sit there with a 1 loyalty and prevent your opponents from being able to draw cards. It's really annoying for them, even if you're not casting a wheel type effect. But, you know, say I'm your opponent and you have this on the battlefield, I draw my first card of the turn, and now, you know, I have a couple spells in my hand, something like, you know, a Faithless Looting or something that's going to let me dig. And now I know that I can't even use that because I've already drawn a card. It just creates dead cards for your opponents, because a lot of people do like to run some draw spells in their decks to make sure that they're able to dig down, find the stuff that they want. And this card says, no, you may not.
You may not. Your veil has been parted. Consider your veil parted. Oh my God, an OG Commander card.
Dude, from back in the day, man.
Yeah, dude.
Including it just because it's a 50-cent card.
Yeah.
A little bit expensive here. We got a 6-cost artifact duplicate. It's a 2/4. It has imprint. When it ETBs, you may exile target non-token creature. As long as a card exiled with duplicate is a creature card, duplicate has the power, toughness, and creature types of the last creature card exiled with duplicate. It's still a shapeshifter. So it's just a kind of an exile spell, and it gets the stats from what it exiles.
Yeah, chat, back in the day, we didn't have cool cards like Reality Shift. If you were not in colors that could exile creatures, you just didn't exile creatures. You didn't do that. That's not a thing. They weren't printing cards for Commander that are just getting all loosey-goosey with the color pie and being whatever they want to be. You ran duplicate, and you liked it. And you walked uphill both ways to your Commander games. Exile non-token creatures. It's like we were talking about. In colors that run exile effects, you don't need this card, but not every card has to go in every EDH deck to be a viable Commander card.
That's right.
So I think this
we originally saw in Mirrodin, dude. The Mirrodin copy. That was the very first time we played against it. None of the other copies existed at that time.
The very first time I remember clearly, Dom played duplicate, said, all right, I'm going to exile target non-token creature. And I was like, and then what? When does it come back? He was like, no, it's just exiled. And I was like, what? The creature just exiles, just aces a creature? And of course, he's building it into some Flickr stupid shit. And so you just, by the way, chat, you bounce duplicate and it re-enters the battlefield. I'll let you imagine what happens after that. So make sure that, you know, if you need exile in a deck that doesn't have good access to exile, you take a look at duplicate. Icon of Ancestry, really good for creature type decks. 3 mana. ETBs, you choose whatever creature type you've built your creature type deck around. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1, and you can pay 3 to dig 3, reveal a creature card of the chosen type, put it right into your hand. Boom. Done. Keep your hand full. Keep playing creatures onto the battlefield.
So this card, we did get a reprint of it in the Warhammer 40k decks.
Yep.
So that printing is worth like $1.70. The copy we're looking at right here is worth 50 cents. So not massive adjustments going on with this card. It's a completely fair card, but it's a very good card if you're playing decks of a chosen creature type.
Yeah, 100%. You really want to give it a look. It's nice to have it under $1. Same as all the signets. Every single signet was in this set, and every single signet is now under $1. It's not just Izzet Signet we're considering in this, but you know, in decks that aren't green, these signets are something you should really consider, because you're kind of playing an additional land. It just represents a land, because you see you tap one into it and it gives you two, so you can just kind of like clump it with your lands and tap them all together, because it just basically plays the role of a land that can tap for either of those colors. However, you got to pay attention, because most things can't destroy lands, but everything can destroy artifacts.
Can destroy artifacts. Yeah, this card right here is representative of the entire cycle. So we're not going to go through every single signet, but we just wanted to put these in here because this is another staple that appeared in this set. And now's a great time to grab these.
Ooh, Ref of the Great. I really love this note in chat. Signets are great pickups for building a cube. That is 100% right.
Yes.
And while these are under $1, really great time to snag some. Especially, again, like I said, for the colors that can't get lands onto the battlefield, like green, and any kind of cube that needs some smoothing of colors. Those are going to be fantastic for you.
And then this is one card that is over $1, and I think it's like $1.25, and it is Mirage Mirror. 3-cost artifact, and it has a pesky ability for 2. Mirage Mirror becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until end of turn. There are a lot of different ways to use this card to make it annoying for your opponents. Consider putting this one in the deck.
Yeah, I love that it's just instant speed and you don't have to tap it. It really, really can get pesky on the battlefield super fast. Talking about OG creatures for your commander deck. Back in my day, some decks didn't have ramp. You had to run a 4-mana 2/2 to get a basic land onto the battlefield and fix your mana. And then it also dies and gets you a card. Chad, I want to see,
fair.
Does anybody run this in any deck anymore? Tell me where you're supposed to run Solemn Simulacrum nowadays, because it's still a solid card. It's not gonna be one of those cards you top deck late and you're like, yes, I'm gonna win. But it is going to help you smooth out your lands if you're in a deck that's not doing that well. It's good for artifact affinity decks that are reducing the cost of it because it's a death trigger to draw a card. That's pretty sweet. It's just, at this point, Sad Robot has been power crept out of the more competitive tables, and obviously it's nowhere near CEDH, but I'm talking like 9s. I'm not even talking like 10s plus for the CEDH decks. Most people who want to play like better than 7, want to play 8 or 9, aren't playing this in their deck, but it's in a beginner set of commander cards, still viable.
I just love this card. Yeah, it's just one of those cards that it does pretty much everything you want to be doing in Commander. Getting lands onto the battlefield, drawing cards.
Yep.
Get it back with an Eternal Witness, doing it all again. So, yeah, even though it's not extremely sweaty, it's just, it's a feels good card. You never hate playing it. You know, you're like, okay, you know, maybe if the back is against the wall and your opponent has a bunch of flyers and you really don't have like anything to do after this, but you know, a lot
that's
of the time
when you send Solemn Simulacrum out onto the battlefield to announce your defeat. You put the white flag in the hand, you have it run out on the battlefield and just tell the opposing army that you've conceded. I like I'm seeing landfall synergies good in Osgir, good in anything that can sack it and return it. That's really strong. You know, got lots of different versions here. The new Corvold artifact creature type decks. Yeah, pretty sweet. Solemn Simulacrum, strong card from the past. Here's another one with that new art, Jake. They printed that new art again on this one.
Yeah, pretty sweet art here. This is a card that originally came to us in War of the Spark, and it is just, it's not for all decks. It is not for all decks. It is for decks that need to be able to create permanent destruction, that have trouble with that. So you might put this in a mono black deck, something where there's something that hits the battlefield, like an enchantment you've already used, Feed the Swarm, something like that. You need to deal with it. Blast Zone is a good card for it. And right now, Blast Zone is like 45 cents, 50 cents here.
It's good for control decks. It's good for stall decks, stuff that want to make it into like turns 8, 9, and 10 consistently, and they're going to be casting, you know, omniscience. We're working towards giant things to win the game, and so what we need to do is work throughout the game to really negate players' turns on like turn 1 through 4. Blast Zone is good for that because it's really easy to, it comes in with a charge counter on it, so you can already activate it and destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1. You can add 1, add 2 to it, and you're wiping everything that's 2 or everything that's 3 off the board that's not a land. You know, I really think that this could be really helpful as a utility land in a lot of decks, and people just don't think about it too much anymore. But under $1 now.
Yeah, I think there's like something about lands like this where people just don't want to keep up with it. They're like, oh, it's just too much to get the most out of this card. But I mean, it's really good if you're playing it in any kind of proliferation strategy as well. You're able to, I mean, it's cool. It's an interesting card. It's an interesting card.
Yep. Those
it's
are
definitely niche, but it's useful.
Those are our picks for 20 cards under $1 from Commander Masters. Make sure you're subscribed because we are going to be picking out sets of cards at like 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus of this set, so that you can acquire these little kits and have a perfect little collection to build any commander deck you want.
That's right. Did we talk about Carador?
Oh.
Carador was on that list as well.
I definitely downloaded Carador.
It's okay. This pour one out for Carador, everybody.